To be solid on Border Gateway Protocol path selection, you want to know this list. This is the steps by which BGP will evaluate the different attributes to choose that best path to install inside of the routing table. And so let's see this from top to bottom. We have prefer the highest weight, prefer the highest local preference, prefer a route originated by the local router, which is going to have an XTOP of all zeros, prefer the shortest autonomous system path. And yes, I'm reading these. Let's go through. Prefer the lowest origin code. IGP is when we have the network command install the route. Incomplete is when we redistribute the route. EGP is when it came from the predecessor of BGP. We won't see this. Then prefer the lowest MED, multi-exit discriminator, also called the metric. Then prefer the eBGP path over iBGP. This is a protocol that is built for eBGP. Prefer the path through the closest neighbor from your IGP's perspective. And you can start to see 8, 9, 10, and 11 are kind of the tiebreakers. These are the things that it's just going to choose something for us, and it's deterministic, but it's not the sort of thing that we would be reliant on. I would not go to my boss and say, yeah, it's working just fine because it happens to be that the BGP router ID on that router is lower, and so that's why it's getting chosen. I don't need to change anything about the config. I wouldn't rely on that. Those are the sorts of things that would get you into problems. So you must be a master of these different path selection criteria. And I need you to memorize them, at least through 1 through 6. 1 through 6 you are responsible for. I've got good news. And the good news is this. We've got a great mnemonic. I personally came up with this mnemonic with Raymond a while ago, and I want to share it with you. What is that mnemonic? Well, I when I was a kid, ate a lot of oranges. I grew up in California. Oranges were readily available. We had a mandarin orange tree in the backyard. And I would eat so many oranges that my skin would break out in rashes. No joke. And one year I was given, all the gifts that were given to me were like orange peelers, orange zesters. It's that sort of thing. Well, if we think to the orange, we can remember 1 through 6. So, an orange. I want you to think about an orange. There's something else that I got that year as a gift, and it was orange preserves. What do we call orange preserves? Call orange preserves orange marmalade, right? Orange marmalade. There are other different types of marmalade, so we want to be specific about orange marmalade. With that said, we can apply that to this list and memorize 1 through 6. We love oranges, and I'm going to uppercase the and for a reason. Orange marmalade. If you can remember that, you can master this. We love oranges originated by the local router, autonomous system path list, and draw in another arrow, orange, origin code, and MED. We love oranges and orange marmalade. Say that a few times. You may not love oranges yourselves or marmalade. Maybe it's one or the other, or neither. But this is an awesome mnemonic for the memorization of the BGP selection criteria. Commit that to memory, because you will need to be able to demonstrate the order of these. You absolutely need to know things like wait before local preference, autonomous system list before med. Knowing those is crucial to BGP mastery. If we know the BGP selection criteria, shown on screen here, we can then start to look at our own routers that are running BGP and start to read things and gain a deeper insight into BGP. Let's review this. If I were on router 4, or any of these routers running BGP, I would do the show IP BGP command, which is a great way to view the stored information that BGP has. So, lots of codes up top. Let's talk about how that listing was. What was the very first item in the list? If you know the mnemonic "We love oranges and orange marmalade," wait is the first, the "we" of that. Wait, you see that there. Then love, that's the second one. That's local preference. You see the local preference right there. Now, I have not done anything to the BGP attributes, so you can see local preference of 100, that must be the default. A wait of 0 is the default. A med of 0 is the default. So we love oranges. Now, that's when the first O is for locally originated, and R1 is locally originating a route. So let me show you that. Show IP BGP. That's a route that is originated by the local router. So we love oranges and that is the autonomous system path list. So if I were to go to, yep, there we go. If I were getting to 64501, or specifically the 172.16.32 network, .192, which is that guy right there, I would look for the shortest autonomous system path. And it's just counting the number of autonomous systems. So that's the we love oranges and, okay, so that's the and, orange. That's the next one, another orange. And that is for the origin code. The origin code can be one of three things. Network command gives us an origin code of I. Taking from EGP, which doesn't exist anymore, is an E. You won't see that. And a question mark means it was redistributed. Question mark sounds bad, but in fact it's totally okay to see question marks. It just means it was redistributed. There's lots of good reasons to redistribute routes into BGP. Specifically, redistributing static routes is a common practice because they are quite stable. So we see the letter I. That is origin code right over there. And so the last one, after the second oranges, we love oranges and orange marmalade. That's last in the relevant list. That is the MED, the multi-exit discriminator. It has another name called metric. This was the previous name for the multi-exit discriminator, and not everyone has caught up to adjusting. And in fact, the iOS doesn't adjust uniformly to this. So we're stuck with how the iOS represented this back 20 years ago, okay? So being able to say, I know how to look at the BGP table and go, I know that's wait, that's first, local preference, that's second, originated locally, that isn't super important, then AS path, then the MED. Those are the most impactful BGP attributes for us because they affect us the most, and we can directly influence each of these, even the AS path. We can influence wait, local preference, AS path, and the MED. And once you understand how to do that, you have a lot of control over BGP path selection.